welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Srikanth, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bangalore. And Krishna, we have a big scoop on the show today.
Oh, absolutely, Chandra. We have a big coup. So let's first check out all the headlines that we're tracking over here. Peppertap's co-founder and CEO Navneet Singh will open up to us in a very special chat about shutting grocery delivery and pivoting to logistics. This candid and exclusive interview is our top story on ET Now Startup Central.
Can you switch off the...
Even as parts of the startup ecosystem implode, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan throws his weight behind easier regulations for startups, stating that startups are the biggest source of job creation. If you're a startup looking for capital, there is a new fund in town backed by Mohandas Pai and the Patnis. More details coming up on the show. And Meru's founder is charting a new road even as he fends off competition from Uber and Ola. Neeraj Gupta is all set to get into the emission testing space. We'll get you more details.
Thank you for that, Krishna. And you know, on ET Now, we don't just bring you voices, but we bring you voices when they matter the most. That's the reason why we had Puneet Soni last week, just days after he quit Flipkart. And that's why we have Peppertap founder and CEO Navneet Singh today to really discuss the way the online grocery space has imploded. You know, Krishna, in the last year, this space has seen investments of over $480 million and over 570 startups really springing. Everyone really knew that it was going to be tough to survive, but I think the biggest shocker came over this weekend when Peppertap, a popular startup in that space, decided to log out of grocery delivery and pivot to logistics. We really have Navneet Singh on our show today in his first and detailed interview to take us through the preceding days, what motivated him to do this, and the lessons that this tough decision has for other entrepreneurs. Navneet, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now Startup Central. You know, it really can't be easy announcing a shutdown of services and pivoting to logistics. Take us through, you know, the preceding few days, the factors that really culminated in this decision.
So I think the last few weeks have been actually quite difficult, as you rightly said. It's not an easy decision for a startup of our size to say that, okay, we're going to shut our doors now. But it's a very well thought out process. We've basically looked at different options that we had. We've looked at what all things can we do. We've looked at, okay, what can happen in the future. And also looked at the real numbers that we had on the business. And in the end, the kind of justified call was that, okay, it probably makes sense to use the capital that we have for something else rather than the hyperlocal grocery delivery service, which is what Peppertap was. And getting everybody, investors, all the investors on board took a bit of time. I have a lot of investors on the board, so talking to these guys and getting them on board, I think the last few weeks, been fairly difficult, but I think we made the right decision.
Right, Navneet, this is Krishna coming to you from ET Now. This is the Mumbai studios. You know, whenever hyper-local was talked about over the last year, people always said it has poor unit economics because you lose so much cash on every single order. I know it's easy to say, but I told you so, but didn't you just see this coming, or what led you to believe things would turn out otherwise for Peppertap?
Right, in terms of the unit economics and hyperlocal being not as good as some other models in the short term. But one thing which is very clear is that in the long term, once you achieve a scale, hyperlocal unit economics are much better than any other model that you can employ in groceries. So we had a firm belief that, okay, if we are able to achieve scale, our unit economics actually will look better than the others. The problem is getting to that scale is obviously difficult. I mean, because the unit economics in the short term are not good, you need to have a lot more capital to be able to reach that scale, which is what we were not very confident that we'll be able to raise in the next 1 year or so, given the investment climate right now.
Navneet, are you disappointed that your investors, notably Sequoia and Snapdeal, didn't extend you a lifeline when you needed it the most?
So look, I mean, the investors that I have on board have been completely with us. It's not that we've run out of money. We have enough money in the bank. It's just that we believe that the correct use of that money is probably not in hyperlocal groceries, but somewhere else at this point.
Navneet, while the news of you shuttering grocery delivery happened over the weekend, tell us how did Monday begin for you? What decisions did you have to make starting today?
I think people in the office knew over the last 1 week or so that this was going to happen. The news broke outside only last weekend, but to be honest, people in the office knew that this was going to happen, so they were fairly prepared for it.
And what has the reaction from customers really been, Navneet, over the last couple of days?
To be honest, a lot of our loyal customers have been saying that, okay, I mean, Peppertap is shutting down. It's just going to be a little more inconvenient to buy groceries. But, I mean, it's not been that negative or positive. It's been fairly neutral. People understand it's a business, doesn't make money, fine. Okay, so, it has to shut down.
All right, Navneet, take us through why you want to pivot to third-party logistics and tell us how exactly will you go about it? Will this be in the hyper-local space again?
Sure. So look, I mean, before starting Peppertap, we had started NovoX, which is an e-commerce focused reverse logistics company. That business still continues, and we're going to expand that further now. So reverse logistics will be one of the parts. Then we'll also start looking at forward logistics, both in hyperlocal and in the normal traditional format. So all of these three will become different business lines within NovoX now.
You justified, the pivot to logistics, but what kind of investment is this going to involve, and are you poised for that, prepared for that going forward?
We have enough money in the bank to start the logistics business. At this point, we are not looking for capital.
All right, so you do have enough money in the bank at this point in time as well. Navneet, we have a segment called 3 Mistakes on this show where we ask entrepreneurs to recount the 3 mistakes that they made that others can learn from. Now that we're doing this special chat, tell us what would be your 3 mistakes as Peppertap's founder?
Sure. I think the first one was scaling up too fast without actually fixing the ground issues in terms of kind of the integration that you need with the stores. So one was not solving that issue fast enough. Second was scaling too fast without solving the first one. And third was just bad timing in terms of the investment climate. I think these were the 3 ones.
Navneet, Peppertap is not alone in the pain that the space has seen. I mean, if you look at it, Flipkart nearby has shut down, Paytm Zippy has shut down, Ola Cafe and Store have shut down, and even local Banya has suspended operations. So what is the future going to be, considering you now have Amazon, Grofers and Big Basket competing here?
So look, I think online grocery will take a long time to crack, but the 2 or 3 players who will crack it will actually become fairly big. So it's not that we're not bullish on online groceries, it's just that the unfortunate sort of timing that we have right now, we are not the ones who are going to crack it.
Navneet, this begs the question, will the ones with deep pockets only survive then? Because, at the end of the day, a profitable business model hasn't emerged yet.
I think it's going to be a balance between capital raise and execution. Obviously, just capital doesn't win. You have to execute it right. And the players who have enough capital and execute it right will win.
Navneet, the painful part now, of course, is going to be the layoffs involved. I think over 100, a few of them who will transition to logistics. But how you're going to go about this in the most humane way possible to really avoid a tiny owl kind of situation where there was a confrontation between the founders and the laid-off employees.
Sure. So to be honest, this is not a new thing for us. We shut down a few cities a couple of months back. So we've done this in the past. You just have to be sensitive of what you're actually doing. You have to understand the gravity that you're actually impacting somebody's life in an adverse manner. And you have to handle it that way. So you pay them reasonable severance, respect them, and just let them know that, okay, it's not because of them individually. It's just the circumstances that don't allow us to employ them any further. To be honest, we've not really faced any such issues in the past, and we don't expect to face such issues again at this point also.
I wanted to ask you, are you and the senior management staying on then to drive the logistics business?
So yes, the founding team remains the same. We have a completely different team for the logistics thing already in place. And next month onwards, we'll start building that piece fairly fast.
Navneet, curious too, I'm sure Peppertap employees are counting on you for all the support they can get during these trying times. But who have you been really turning to in the last few days for emotional support to tide over this crisis?
I think personally, I talk to my wife. She's actually a source of great strength for me. Generally, when I have any issues and stuff, I talk to her, and she probably she's the best sort of moral support that I have. Otherwise, I have a fairly close group of friends I talk to generally about the problems that I face in business or in personal life. So kind of the moral support that I have is fairly strong enough.
Navneet, what were the kind of learnings that the last few days gave for you, which you believe other entrepreneurs can learn from?
I think the important learning that I have is get the product right first and then scale it up at the right pace. I think these two things are fairly important for any startup. Do not rely on a lot of discounting and stuff, which is what we did to a certain extent. And look at the right business metrics. You should be able to sort of execute it right then.
Navneet, I know hindsight is always 20/20, but if you have to go back and change that one thing about your business that could have changed things for you, what would that be?
I think the decision to scale, when we should have probably given it more time. I would change that.
Navneet, you believe that you grew a little too fast?
Decision to scale up beyond Gurgaon, I think we should have given it a little more time.
What is the answer then really going to be? I mean, does India need more time for online grocery? What is the future here, considering, there is high cash burn, the cost of customer acquisition is high, and there's no real loyalty because it's all driven by discounts. So what's the future going to be here?
No, I think there will definitely be 2 or 3 big players in online grocery in India 3 to 4 years from now. Who will those be? This is what we'll have to see. So it's not that online grocery is going to be dead. I think it's a fairly big opportunity and people will crack it. It's just that who is it that's going to be, we'll have to see.
All right, Navneet, man to man, tell me, what will you be doing over the next few days? Will you be taking a break then to digest, all that's gone down?
There's no break for me, unfortunately. This is probably not the right time to take a break. But at this point, I'm just trying to sort of settle all the operation closure that's happening at Peppertap, and then trying to sort of think out what's the right strategy for building out the logistics piece.
Navneet, finally, I can't think of many CEOs who manage to sound calm and collected in such trying circumstances, but you've managed to do that over the last 10 minutes. What kind of coping mechanisms have you been really using in the last few weeks?
So look, I think you have to be confident about any decision that you make. I'm fairly confident that at this point, with whatever knowledge we have, we're making the right decision. Whatever the media says or people say, I mean, yes, people have the right to their opinion. They don't have the right, they don't have enough data, they don't have enough information to make a judgment on somebody else's situation. We are probably in the midst of the situation. We are the right people to make this decision. If we are confident that we've made the right decision, there's no point in sort of paying too much heed to some of the comments which may be coming in, which may not be right?
Navneet, it's a very crucial day for you. This is when you begin to really kick off the shutdown. But thank you so much for taking out time and talking to ET Now Startup Central. Krishna, that was a very telling interview about his mistakes, the learnings for others. And as I said, I can't think of many CEOs who manage to sound calm and collected, but hopefully Peppertap's pivot will work for it better than the online grocery space. We'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely, Chandra. And also, not many would be coming and speaking to on camera, that too, this soon after something like that. So due credit and kudos to Navneet over there. But moving on here on ET Now Startup Central, startups will be the main driving force behind job creation. That's the word coming in from RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan. Rajan also lauded the government's efforts in creating an easy entry and exit levels for startups. Listen to him then.
As you know, startups are, in many countries, the biggest source of job creation. Even in India, self-employment is one of the biggest source of new jobs. Now, there is a myth that that startups and small firms are primarily where the job creation is. It certainly is where it starts. But job creation is really done by small firms that grow big. It's the process of growing in which they create jobs, and we have to ensure that we have an environment where people not only start, but start and grow. The conditions that people have argued for, the conditions that the government is trying to create, is that of a friendly business environment with a level playing field and easy entry and exit. Okay, so that's a set of obvious conditions. So in some sense, the benefits from infrastructure are much greater for small firms and for startups than for large firms. And the impending revolution in infrastructure, both from the construction of many more roads, from the expansion of the railway network, will be extremely beneficial to small firms who are already benefiting from the improvement in private logistical systems, which are emerging as a result of all these internet online marketplaces and so on. So to my mind, the conditions for starting a small firm are improving day by day in India today, not just because of the lightening of regulation which is being done by the central government as well as state governments in competition with each other, but also by the improvements in infrastructure and logistics which are happening.
And for startups and entrepreneurs still hungry for funds, there's good news, Krishna, because there's yet another venture capital fund in town, Ideaspring Capital, which has been promoted by the likes of Mohandas Pai, the Patni Sions, as well as angel investor Naganand Doraswamy. Rahul Daima caught up with the key investors in this fund to find out about the corpus and also the areas that they will be investing in going forward.
Yeah, so we have been in the startup ecosystem for the past 8 to 10 years in India and been part of various organizations, TIE, NASSCOM and iSpirit. And what we realized was, in specifically for very early stage product startups, there are not that many people who understood what it would take to kind of back entrepreneurs or fund entrepreneurs. And we saw that, and hence the number of products, the companies coming out of India in startups was very minimal.
Also, if you could break it down in terms of what's the corpus size of this fund, and also, in terms of Series A, pre-series, how would you be investing in startups?
Sure. So our fund is 125 crore Indian rupees. What we want to do is, because we are an early stage fund, we want to put about 50 crores in seed stage. But obviously, to give good returns to our LPs, we want to participate in the pre-series A, Series A, and we have allocated another 50 crores for participation in pre-series Series A. And then we have some that is left over for fund management and for any bridge that we might want to see.
How many startups will you be investing? In a year, how many startups do you plan to invest, say, by the end of this year?
Correct. So we are looking at investing in 4 to 6 startups in a year, because as I said, we have a startup assist program where we want to work very closely with the startups. So 4 to 6 is what we are looking at. So we want to do the seed stage in the next 3 years, and then in the next 18 months, we hopefully will start doing follow-up rounds. Yeah.
Also, what will really be the differentiator as far as Ideaspring is concerned? We have a lot of accelerator programs, we have a lot of funds out there. What will differentiate you? You spoke about also handholding startups in a long haul and ensuring that you partner with them in many ways.
Correct. I think incubators and accelerators are doing a fantastic job, but I believe in our fund, a differentiator is we'll be with them for 18 months, and typically incubators and accelerators don't stay for that long. And for a product company to be successful, I think that's the kind of timeline you're looking at. 12 to 18 months is minimum where you'll have to help them. And the difference in our fund is it's a very niche fund, very focused on product development, with IP being the key differentiator.
Startups really watching the show, which any specific areas, sectors that you would be investing for them to ensure, they can come and pitch the right way to you.
Correct. So in terms of sectors, again, it's broad. It can be an enterprise product, health tech, or it can be in fintech, AR, VR, machine learning, deep learning. So those are the areas we're looking at. But if I have a message for the entrepreneurs, I'm saying, if you have a product innovation thought in your mind, and you have good team, and the market is good, and you're very passionate, come talk to us.
I'm sure the startups are listening. Lastly, product innovation. We haven't really done much enough. We haven't seen exits as well in this space. So, want to dig in a little deeper and know why, because you feel the enough has not been done as far as the product ecosystem in the country is concerned?
I think the number of startups was itself low, and I think we are learning about product innovation, and people compare to US. US is a 45, 50-year-old industry. We will get there, and that's one of the reasons why we are starting. People normally say that once you see something in the paper, it's already too late. So we consider our fund like a startup. So we want to be there, and we want to help enable startups to become successful, and hopefully through our fund, we'll see some exits.
All right, Chandra, it's time now for yet another exclusive on the show. Neeraj Gupta, the pioneer of a radio taxi services provider Mecabs, is getting ready to chart a brand new course. We learned that the Mecabs founder, who is facing tough competition from the likes of Uber and Ola, is now looking to enter the auto solutions and emission testing segment. We have Ashwin Mohan joining us with that exclusive story. Ashwin, tell us, what are the details of this new venture that you're picking up from your sources?
Krishna, firstly, it's a niche segment because let's not forget that it is backed by the government, because this is a government which clearly is very, very strict about the compliance of all the emission norms by all the top automakers and car makers. It's also a government which is betting on safer roads. And clearly, the timing could not have been more apt for Neeraj Gupta, because on one hand, though he might be facing tough competition from the likes of Ola and Uber, this is clearly a plan which he has envisaged in his personal capacity. And what I'm picking up from government sources is that the Mecabs founder is indeed in initial stages of making a foray into vehicle emission testing, and also testing as far as the roadworthiness of every vehicle goes. As part of this plan, we understand from government sources that he's in fact looking to launch about 10 to 15 vehicle testing and certification centers. He's not going to do this all alone. He is in fact looking at getting the right kind of technological expertise from an overseas player. So it will be a consortium of sorts that will be in fact making this particular foray. Now, as far as this particular foray is concerned, there are two aspects. One is, of course, the fact that this particular segment is extremely capital intensive. So therefore, fundraising will be required. And we understand that Neeraj Gupta is likely to, in fact, soon appoint bankers and chart out that entire fundraising process. So that's one aspect to look at. The other aspect, of course, is the infrastructure bit, which is wherein this venture is likely to bid very aggressively for tenders by the government and acquire land, and of course then set up these centers. We did reach out to Neeraj Gupta for an official comment, but he declined to comment on our story. But clearly, this is yet another example of people from core areas diversifying into niche segments to try and see whether that attempt works or not.
Thanks for that, Ashwin and Krishna. It's really been raining exclusives on the show today. As I said in the beginning, ET Now doesn't just bring you voices, but it brings you voices when they matter the most. It's all a question of timing, isn't it, Krishna?
Oh, if it wasn't for timing, we wouldn't be standing here even doing the show, Chandra. It's all about timing. And we here at ET Now Startup Central have the pulse as far as startup space in the country is concerned. And with that, we wrap things up here on this edition. Thank you so much for watching. But don't go anywhere. Keep watching ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.